All right, let's go ahead and dive into this one.
Yeah.
This is a big one.
Huge.
Lee Harvey Oswald, one of the biggest mysteries of the 20th century.
Absolutely.
I mean, how can you not talk about Lee Harvey Oswald when you talk about the Kennedy assassination?
Yeah, it's one of those pivotal figures.
Pivotal. I love that word. That's a good word.
Yeah.
We've gotten a ton of articles and documents about this guy.
Oh, yeah.
So
pages and pages and pages.
it's clear that after all these years, there's still so much to figure out about this guy and his role in all this.
Absolutely.
So let's just go ahead and get right into it.
Yeah.
We're going to sift through all this.
Right.
We're going to focus on the facts, the unanswered questions, and
Right.
the strange connection.
The things that make it go,
Yeah, make you go, that really make you think twice about what you thought you knew.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's amazing.
It is amazing.
How a single event like this can still generate so much debate and speculation after all these decades.
Absolutely. And, one of the events that always sparks discussion is Oswald's arrest.
Oh, yeah.
At the Texas Theater, just a short time after the assassination.
Right.
I mean, he was caught with a pistol.
Right.
Which is weird in itself.
Yeah.
But his reaction to the arrest is even weirder.
Yeah.
He reportedly said, "I don't know why you're treating me like this. The only thing I have done is carry a pistol in a movie."
It's so strange.
It's a very strange.
I mean, like, what? It's such a strange.
Almost flippant, like.
Yeah, and it raises so many questions.
It does.
Especially when you start to, factor in the timeline and the weapons.
Yeah,
and
timeline's crazy.
It's crazy. So shortly before Oswald's arrest, Officer J.D. Tippit was shot and killed.
Fatally.
And the weapon that was used was an automatic .38.
Right.
Now, the gun that Oswald had at the theater was a revolver.
Completely different.
Yeah, completely different. And for those of you who might not be familiar with guns, an automatic fires much faster than a revolver. So, it's
big difference.
It's a big difference. Yeah. And this, when you consider the time frame, this really becomes important. Like, could Oswald have realistically committed both of these shootings?
Yeah, because the timeline is so incredibly tight.
It's so tight.
Officer Tippit was shot around 1:05 p.m.
Okay.
And Oswald was arrested at the theater at 1:50 p.m., just a half mile away.
Oh, wow.
So that gives him maybe 45 minutes to shoot the officer, ditch the automatic, get to the theater, and then get caught with a totally different gun.
Right. And that's not even factoring in like travel time and everything else. It's really hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine someone pulling that off.
Yeah, and it gets even more complicated when you consider the eyewitnesses from the Tippit shooting.
Right.
Several people describe seeing a bushy-haired man
fleeing the scene. A description that doesn't fit Oswald at all.
No, not at all.
That bushy-haired man is a
It's
really
one of those things.
intriguing detail. If it wasn't Oswald, who was it?
Right.
I mean, was this just like a case of mistaken identity?
Well, in all the chaos.
Yeah, in all the chaos, maybe, or was there something more?
Right. Or was there a deliberate attempt to mislead the investigation? And if so, why? What would be the motive?
To create such a distraction.
Such a distraction. Yeah, I mean,
it really makes you wonder.
It makes you wonder if there were forces at play that were trying to muddy the waters right from the start.
From the very start, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Oswald's behavior, too.
Right.
So strange. At the Texas Theater, he seemed to be ducking every time a police car passed.
Oh, really?
Like he was trying to avoid detection.
Okay.
But then after his arrest,
he
was completely calm, almost detached, almost arrogant.
This is strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah, and some theorists suggest that this strange behavior could point to Oswald being a decoy.
Okay.
Deliberately drawing attention away from the real assassins.
Yeah.
Maybe he believed that he was somehow protected. Okay. That he would be released due to lack of evidence.
Like a patsy.
A patsy, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so now this next story is where things take a really interesting turn.
Okay.
It's about a man named Stephen Landesberg.
Okay.
And what's known as the Greenwich Village hoax.
The Greenwich Village hoax.
Okay. So Landesberg called into radio stations on the night of the assassination.
Oh, wow.
Impersonating a man named Jim Rizzuto.
Okay.
Okay. And he claimed to know Oswald from their time in the Marines.
Okay.
And said they were involved in right-wing activities together.
Okay.
In Greenwich Village.
Interesting.
And here's the thing. Landesberg had some really specific details about Oswald.
Oh, really?
Like his interest in photography, attending political meetings, his desire for fame, all things that weren't public knowledge at that point.
Wow.
So how did he know?
Yeah, that insider knowledge really makes you question whether Landisberg was just a prankster.
Right.
Or if there was a genuine connection between Oswald and these right-wing extremist groups.
Right.
And was this a crucial piece of the puzzle that was overlooked?
Yeah.
Or even intentionally downplayed?
Yeah. And there's another layer to the Landisberg story that's
oh, really?
particularly strange.
Okay.
It's believed that Landisberg was Jewish.
Okay.
But he was disrupting Jewish gatherings in Greenwich Village while pretending to be this bigoted character from Mississippi.
It's so strange.
Why would he do that?
It's a detail that, it deepens the mystery.
Deepens the mystery.
And makes it even harder to understand his motivations.
Okay, let's move on to a popular myth that's been debunked.
Okay.
The story of the Black Dog Man.
The Black Dog Man. Okay.
So for years, there were these rumors about a shadowy figure lurking behind the retaining wall.
Oh, yeah.
On the grassy knoll during the assassination.
Okay.
Some people even thought that he might have been involved in the shooting.
Right.
The Black Dog Man has fueled countless conspiracy theories.
Yeah. But when you look at the photographic and witness evidence, it turns out that that shadowy figure was actually just a young black woman having lunch with her boyfriend on the grassy knoll.
Wow.
Yeah.
Talk about a case of mistaken identity.
It's amazing how these things get,
It really is.
warped over time.
Yeah.
And, and details get distorted in the chaos and the emotion of a traumatic event.
And to add to the confusion,
yeah.
the woman had dropped her soda bottle.
Oh.
A red one, and it smashed on the ground.
Oh, wow.
And some witnesses thought it was blood or a red snow cone, which further fueled the Black Dog Man myth.
Oh, wow.
So even though the Black Dog Man myth is debunked, there was some unusual activity behind that retaining wall just before the motorcade arrived.
Oh, really?
Photographer James Alchins, who was capturing images of the motorcade, noticed a group of people suddenly appearing behind the wall.
Oh, wow.
Including some police officers.
Interesting.
What were they doing there?
Right. It's a detail that definitely raises eyebrows.
It does.
Was it just a coincidence?
Yep.
Or was there something more to this gathering?
Another piece of the puzzle.
Another piece of the puzzle, yeah.
That adds to the intrigue of the grassy knoll.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's bring in another character.
Okay.
Who adds a whole new layer of complexity.
Oh, boy.
Isaac Don Levine.
Isaac Don Levine, okay.
Seasoned journalist.
Okay.
And a staunch anti-communist. He arrived in Dallas shortly after the assassination.
Okay.
Seeking to interview Marina Oswald.
Okay. Lee Harvey's widow.
Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald's widow.
Right.
Levine was a prominent figure during the Cold War.
Oh, yeah.
He had a long history in anti-communist propaganda, even had ties to the CIA. He was basically a master storyteller during the Cold War, someone who knew how to influence people's opinions.
Right.
And he made some pretty significant claims about Marina.
Oh, really?
He said that she destroyed evidence after the assassination.
Oh, wow.
Specifically a photograph that Oswald had inscribed for his daughter.
Oh, my gosh.
So this raises questions about Marina's role.
Right.
And whether she was trying to protect her husband's legacy or hide something more incriminating.
Yeah. Levine's claims definitely cast a shadow of doubt.
They do.
On Marina's actions and motives.
Yeah, absolutely. And Levine was really pushing a specific narrative about Oswald's motivations.
Yeah.
He was claiming that Oswald was a Trotskyite.
Okay.
Basically a follower of Leon Trotsky, who had these different communist ideals than the Soviet Union.
Okay.
He was also pushing the Maoist angle.
Okay.
Linking Oswald to the ideology of Mao Zedong in China. Basically, he was trying to paint Oswald as this radical communist acting against Kennedy's policies.
Yeah, it's a narrative that fits so neatly.
It does.
Into those Cold War anxieties of the time.
Absolutely.
But it's worth considering whether Levine was deliberately trying to shape public perception of the assassination to fit a particular agenda.
Okay, now get ready for this next detail.
Okay.
It adds an international twist to the story.
Okay.
On the evening of the assassination, a Cubana Airlines flight from Mexico City to Cuba was delayed for several hours.
Oh, wow.
And the CIA was very suspicious about this delay.
Really?
They believed that the flight might have been used to transport Miguel Casasayas, a possible Cuban intelligence agent who had been in Dallas on November 22nd.
Oh, my gosh.
So we've got a potential Cuban connection here,
Yeah.
which really ramps up the intrigue.
Yeah, and what's even more fascinating is that a Canadian journalist named Alan Edmonds was on that same delayed flight.
Really?
Yeah, and he noticed several other passengers who could have potentially been connected to the assassination.
Wow.
Though he didn't know it at the time.
He didn't know.
Right.
This raises the possibility that Edmonds unknowingly shared a flight with individuals involved in the assassination.
Yeah, this adds another layer to the international intrigue surrounding this event.
So we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, we have.
And it's clear that the events surrounding Oswald's arrest are anything but straightforward.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've got the strange timeline, the conflicting witness accounts, the mysterious bushy-haired man, and the perplexing behavior of Oswald himself.
And when you add in figures like Landisberg and Levine, with their conflicting narratives and potential agendas, it becomes even harder to discern.
It really does.
Which truth? What's speculation and what might have been deliberately manipulated?
It really makes you think.
It does.
About just how deep this rabbit hole goes.
Oh, yeah.
And how far this goes.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion, and with each layer, we find more questions than answers.
Speaking of questions, there's a whole bunch surrounding those infamous backyard photos of Oswald.
Right.
You know, the ones where he's holding the rifle.
Right.
Some people believe that those photos were faked.
Oh, yeah.
Doctored to make him look guilty.
Yeah, the authenticity of those photos has been debated for years.
Oh, yeah.
Some researchers have pointed out inconsistencies like the shadows and the positioning of objects in the photos, which, you know, could suggest that they're manipulated.
There's, like one of the claims is that if you use the paper that Oswald is holding in the photo as a size guideline, he appears much shorter than his actual height.
Really?
That detail has definitely fueled the arguments that the photos were staged.
Yeah, it's a compelling argument.
It is.
But even with all these questions swirling around the photos, Oswald himself never actually denied.
He never denied it.
They were of him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what do we make of that?
Right. Are the photos real, or are they part of a larger scheme to frame Oswald?
It's a question that might never be definitively answered.
I think you're right.
But it's crucial to consider all the evidence and all the different perspectives before forming any conclusions.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in the what-ifs and the speculation.
Yeah.
But we have to be careful not to jump to conclusions without solid evidence.
Solid evidence, you got it.
Okay, shifting gears a bit.
Okay.
Remember how we talked about the possibility of the police mishandling the investigation?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, there's this crazy incident involving a fingerprint expert.
Okay.
That really makes you wonder.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
Okay, so you're talking about the fingerprint expert brought in by a former Dallas police officer to review the evidence.
Yes.
So this officer's nephew wanted to clear his uncle's name and prove that the Dallas Police Department had conducted a thorough investigation.
Oh, okay.
So he hired a fingerprint expert, Captain Jerry Powdrill.
Captain Jerry Powdrill.
Okay. To examine the prints found on the rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fascinating here is that Powdrill, after carefully examining the evidence, could only confirm 3 matching points of identification between the fingerprints on the rifle and Oswald's fingerprints.
3 points.
3 points.
That's not enough.
For a positive ID, right?
No, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
Most states require at least 7 to 10 matching points.
Wow.
For a positive fingerprint identification. 3 points is simply not conclusive.
Not at all. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
The nephew, who wrote a book about all this, tries to spin those findings in his favor.
Oh, really?
He claims that even though Powdrill couldn't make a positive ID, that he didn't find any significant differences between the 2 sets of fingerprints. It feels like he's really reaching.
Yeah, it does seem like an attempt
to make his point.
To fit the evidence into a predetermined narrative?
Yeah.
Rather than
letting the evidence speak for itself?
Rather than the evidence speak for itself, exactly.
And there's another detail that's strange.
Okay.
Oswald's fingerprints were taken at the morgue.
Okay.
And at the funeral home.
At the funeral home, why?
Why would they need to fingerprint him twice?
Right.
Especially at the funeral home.
Right.
Using different methods.
Right. It's a procedure.
It just seems odd.
That raises more questions than it answers.
It does.
You know, were there attempts to tamper with the evidence? Or was this just a case of standard procedure going wrong? It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, but it's definitely worth further investigation.
I think so.
It's all so suspicious.
Yeah.
Speaking of questionable procedures,
yeah.
What about those arrest reports?
Oh.
The nephew claims they were brief.
Okay.
Because they were released to the press.
Okay.
But that doesn't explain
yeah.
why the report stated Oswald was guilty of the assassination.
Wow.
Before he was even formally charged.
That's a huge red flag.
Huge red flag.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's not just unusual.
Yeah.
It's potentially a violation of due process.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost as if they were trying to convict him in the court of public opinion.
Right.
Before a proper investigation was even complete.
It makes you wonder if there was a deliberate attempt
right.
to influence public opinion against Oswald.
Right, from the very beginning.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, it's a disturbing thought, but it's one that we can't ignore, given the evidence that we're looking at.
Okay, so we've got questionable fingerprints.
Right?
A rushed arrest report.
Yeah.
And now this. Oswald repeatedly asked for a lawyer.
Oh, wow.
Which is his right.
Yeah.
But one wasn't provided for him until much later.
The denial of legal representation is a serious breach.
It is.
Of Oswald's rights.
Yeah.
And it casts even more doubt on the fairness of the investigation.
It makes you wonder if they were trying to prevent him from mounting a proper defense.
Right.
And getting a fair trial.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
That we can't rule out.
You know, it's interesting because when you look at Oswald's behavior after the arrest.
Right.
It's really different.
Yeah.
From how other assassins typically act.
Oh, really? How so?
Most assassins, after committing such a horrific act, often revel in what they've done.
They want the
notoriety.
Notoriety, right, yeah.
But Oswald was calm, almost detached, even claimed to be a patsy.
Right.
Which we talked about earlier.
If we connect this back to the theory that Oswald was a decoy, it starts to make a disturbing kind of sense.
Yeah.
You know, imagine for a moment that he was playing a role, believing he was somehow protected by the people who put him up to it.
Right.
But then as things unfolded,
Yeah.
he realized too late that he was just a pawn.
A pawn.
In a much larger, more sinister game.
That's a chilling thought.
It is, and this raises a crucial question.
Yeah.
If Oswald was indeed a decoy, who was he diverting attention from?
Ooh.
Who benefited from the enduring mysteries of the assassination?
Yeah.
And how does that lack of definitive answers continue to shape our understanding of history?
That's a question that takes us beyond Oswald himself.
Yeah.
And into the realm of wider conspiracies.
Oh, boy.
And that's where we'll pick up.
All right.
In the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm ready.
Man, we've uncovered so many strange details.
Oh, yeah.
And unanswered questions. It really feels like we're just staring into a hall of mirrors with his case.
I agree. It's like, it's almost like a reflection of our own need to try to make sense of the unthinkable.
Yeah, to find like a clear narrative.
Like a clear narrative when faced with something so shocking and traumatic.
Absolutely. And, you know, when you look at just the sheer volume and persistence of conspiracy theories surrounding the Kennedy assassination, it really speaks to how deeply this event affected people.
Absolutely.
And how much we crave a clear resolution.
Right.
So let's talk about some of those theories.
Right. Yeah.
One of the most persistent is that Oswald was part of a much larger plot.
Right.
Maybe involving organized crime.
Okay.
Or anti-Castro Cubans. Who wanted Kennedy gone because of his policies on Cuba. Or even rogue elements.
Wow.
Within the U.S. government itself.
The motives vary, depending on the specific theory. But the common thread is that someone or some group had a powerful reason to want Kennedy out of office. And they were willing to take drastic measures.
Drastic measures. And let's not forget the evidence that suggests potential tampering with the investigation. We've got missing files. We've got witness statements that seem to have been altered. Even the destruction of physical evidence.
That's enough.
It's enough to make anyone suspicious.
To make anyone suspicious. Yeah, it is important to consider the context here.
Okay.
You know, in the immediate aftermath of the assassination, there was immense pressure to find answers, to reassure a nation in shock and mourning, and to prevent further chaos and instability. And that pressure, whether intentional or not, could have led to shortcuts being taken, evidence being mishandled, either accidentally or deliberately.
And that mishandling, whether deliberate or not, has only added fuel to the fire of those conspiracy theories.
Absolutely.
Giving people more reason to doubt the official narrative.
It's almost like every discrepancy, every unanswered question becomes a piece of evidence in the eyes of those seeking the truth, or at least a truth that satisfies their need for a complete explanation.
Okay, so we've got all these theories floating around. But what about the official explanation? The one presented by the Warren Commission.
The Warren Commission, okay.
They concluded that Oswald acted alone, a lone wolf driven by his own twisted motives.
Yeah. The Warren Commission report has been intensely scrutinized. Since it was released. Many researchers have pointed out inconsistencies and omissions, arguing that the report doesn't fully address key pieces of evidence and witness testimony.
So are you saying the Warren Commission got it wrong?
I'm saying it's essential to approach the Warren Report like any historical document with a critical eye. You know, we need to understand the context in which it was created, the potential limitations of the investigation, and the possible biases of those involved.
Fair enough. But after all these years, all these investigations, all these theories, are we any closer?
That's a good question.
To knowing for sure what happened on November 22nd, 1963.
The truth, or at least a truth that we can definitively prove, remains elusive. But that doesn't mean that the search is in vain. You know, it's the pursuit of that truth, the constant questioning, the ongoing examination of the evidence that keeps history alive. It reminds us that even in the face of tragedy and uncertainty, we have a responsibility to keep seeking answers and challenging official narratives, no matter how uncomfortable those challenges might be.
You know, when we started this deep dive, I thought we might uncover some, smoking gun. Some piece of evidence that would finally solve this mystery of Oswald and the Kennedy assassination.
But as we've seen, there are no easy answers here. There's no single piece of evidence that unlocks the whole puzzle.
Instead, we're left with this incredibly complex web of facts and theories and unanswered questions. A web that both fascinates and frustrates. In equal measure.
In equal measure, so
where does this leave our listener?
That's a question.
What should they take away from all this information?
Conflicting perspectives.
Conflicting perspectives,
I would encourage our listener to embrace the ambiguity. You know, to understand that history is rarely neat and tidy.
It's not. It's messy.
It is messy.
The Kennedy assassination reminds us that the past is often a tangled web.
It is.
And our understanding of it is constantly evolving. As new information comes to light.
As new information comes to light, it's like
we're all detectives in a way. Trying to piece together
a puzzle that might not even have all the pieces, right?
Right.
And in a world where information is often manipulated and controlled. The ability to think critically, to question authority, and to form our own conclusions is more crucial.
It really is.
Than ever.
Well said. So even though we might never have all the answers, the act of searching, of questioning, is in itself a victory.
A victory.
Against the forces of silence and obscurity.
Absolutely.
This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has been.
And I know our listeners walking away with a lot to consider.
I hope so.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Thank you for having me.
Through one of history's most
it's always fascinating.
Enduring mysteries.
To explore these pivotal moments in history. And to see how they continue to shape our understanding of the world.
Absolutely.